For this tutorial, I'm going to be doing an introduction to threading. And what a thread is in Warcraft 3 is essentially a little space where the operation limit is reset. Triggers automatically start their own threads. However, there are two different types of threads in Warcraft 3, and one is much faster than the other. And this is the reason why trigger conditions are much faster than trigger actions. Now, the type of thread we're going to be focusing on today is the slower type of thread. And the reason why it's slower is because it can be put to sleep using what's called trigger sleep action. So to begin with, let's go ahead and create an init here. And then let's go ahead and put this in a scope. And now we'll create two functions, one function test1 and the other a private function test2. The fastest way to start up a thread is with what's called the execute func native. And as it suggests, it's a native called execute func, and all it does is take a function name. So for example, test1. That's it. And if we go ahead and save that and put a print in here, hello, it should run. And right there, there's the hello. The execute func threads can be put to sleep using trigger sleep action. And if we go ahead and do this now, it should display after around 3 seconds. And there it is. Now while a thread's being put to sleep, the original caller thread can move on. So for example, call print moving on. Right there, moving on, while the thread's asleep, and then the thread wakes up and prints hello. Warcraft 3 does not support running multiple threads at the same time. It can only run one thread at a time. So if we try to do something like call execute function test2, and then we wanted to do call loop and loop local integer I equal like 5000, set I equal I minus 1, exit when 0 equal I, then call print done. If it were able to support multiple threads, it should first print moving on, then it should print done, then it should print hello. But in this case, it will first print done, then moving on, then later hello. Because this thread right here, the first thread, will go to sleep until this is finished, or it goes to sleep. And if we go ahead and look at it, right there, oh, crashed, didn't it? This one crashed. Okay, let's lower that a bit. Oh, no, it did not crash. I didn't call it correctly. When calling a private function, you need to use the scope private keyword. Because remember, private functions put all this random crap in front of the function name. So this string is not the actual function name. So you put scope private in front of it and it gets the correct function name. If we put syntax in here, we can look test2. So here's the scope private part. And sure enough, there it is. So now it should display moving, or rather done moving, right there, done moving, hello. So as you see, only one thread can run at a time, which means that this one waits until this thread is finished, or it goes to sleep. Threads are primarily used nowadays for data synchronization. Because in data synchronization, you need to be able to do things like put threads to sleep. Threads are also used for initialization. For example, this private stack method on init is actually being called in an execute func. And as we saw here, or rather, if we make this thread crash here, the calling is not affected in any way. So the reason all of these initialization things are done in their own threads is because they have their own internal operation limits and they do not affect the rest of the map if they crash. The faster kind of thread can only be run through Boolean expressions, and it's an evaluated thread, and those types of threads cannot be put to sleep. If you attempt to put them to sleep, they will simply crash. And we will be covering these types of threads in the next tutorial.